Welcome, everybody. Can we have a real chat for a second? That, we all fall victim of this trap, and that trap is when we start to compare ourselves against other people. We've all been there. And can we dive in a little bit on how you can actually finally break free from that and stop measuring yourself against others? Because I'm guessing you've probably found yourself before, maybe scrolling through your phone, looking at social media, and you're seeing everybody else's wins that they're having. You see their smiling kids, you see their business is growing and expanding. It seems like they've got this picture perfect life, and suddenly you feel like you're falling behind. No matter how hard you're actually working, whether it's parenting or building a business, building something meaningful, or just showing up to your job as best you can, it never seems to be enough. And you wonder, why? Why can't I keep up with them? Why are they getting so far ahead? What am I doing wrong? Guess what? I've been there too. I totally understand. As someone who's been trying to raise a family, show up as best I can as a father, as a husband, trying to build something that's meaningful by launching a business and helping entrepreneurs and small businesses through the agency that I run, but also helping individuals through the GIVER method program that I have. I have lost count of how many times that I've compared my behind the scenes mess that I have to someone else's really polished highlight reel. And I came away feeling like I just wasn't measuring up. But here's what finally started to change that for me. I stopped trying to win the game that was never meant to be mine. I stopped using other people's success, other people's life, their family, their businesses as a measuring stick for my own worth. Instead, I started building what I call a personal standard system. And that being just a way that I could track my own progress on my terms based on what actually matters to me. And the truth is that comparison is louder than ever right now. Gosh, social media it doesn't show us what someone else's life is really like. It shows us the best, most filtered, most curated version of it. I know this to be true because there's times where I want to record something that my son is doing, and I go and I'm like, oh, well, the laundry basket's in the background, or his toys are out, or we got Bluey on in the background, where I look at other people and they're hanging out with their kids and it just looks so perfect. We're left comparing our reality to something that was never real in the first place on their end. And that's why today I want to talk about this, and I want to walk you through some steps and principles that have helped people just like you, parents who are maybe feeling overwhelmed, stressed, burned out, entrepreneurs who are feeling behind or out of touch with maybe their purpose on why they got started, or employees part of a larger organization who are feeling stuck. I'm going to break these down because they're designed to help you to break free from this comparison loop that we fall into. Now, I want to tell you, these are not fluffy ideas. These are real practical shifts that you can start using right away, even if your plate feels full. Because if you are any of those people, a parent, an entrepreneur, an employee within an organization, I know your plate's full. I know you have a lot going on. And so I want to make this be something that you can start to do that you don't have to completely realign your day to make it happen, okay? By the end of this video, you're going to not just understand why the comparison has been messing with your head so much, but you're going to have the tools to quiet, to reframe it, to turn it into fuel for growth instead of a source of maybe self-doubt. So if you're tired of feeling like you're not enough, if you're ready to start seeing your true value, in who you already are and what you're doing, and just stick with me. Watch the whole thing. Like the video along the way. Maybe leave your comments as we're going, whether you agree or disagree with me on the principles that we're covering. This conversation might just change how you see yourself. And hey, if any part of it speaks to you, then jump in. Gosh, why don't you just go ahead right now? Hit the subscribe button. Ring that bell for notifications. I don't want you to miss out on any of the content I put out every single week that is helping people to break free from where they're at, to get to that next level, and to transform their lives by finding their gifts and superpowers and stepping into who it is they were meant to be. Now, my name is Jake Talbert. I'm the founder and author of this book. It's called The GIVER Method. GIVER Method program out there is absolutely amazing. It is helping transform people's lives and help them to live a life more fulfilled with more joy, to accomplish what they're trying to accomplish, to be who they want to be, the best parent, the best entrepreneur, the best employee, the best spouse, brother, sister, mother, father, whatever. It is designed to do that for you. So I'm going to put a link to this. This book is on Amazon. It came out last year. It is an Amazon bestseller, tons of 5-star reviews. It's the best $10 you could invest in yourself. So I'll put a link to it on Amazon down in the description. Now, if you're not ready to invest the $10 and you're like, yeah, but I like the idea, then I'll put a free resource down in the description as well that you can get access to. It's called The Giver's Roadmap, and it takes you through the different steps of the GIVER method to get you the initial ideas of what that would look like. so you can at least start putting those things into practice. Now, I get nothing from that. I don't make anything off of a book sale. I don't make anything when you opt in for that. I just want you to have those resources because I know how much they're going to impact and change your life. Now, down in the description as well, I'll include the links to all the places you can find us and follow us: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and thegivermethod.com, where we have our programs, how we can come speak on stages or be a part of someone's podcast, all that type of stuff. I'll put that all down in the description. So let's dive in now. Let's really start to look at how we can build deeper connections. We can create the kind of impact that we want to in our lives. And it starts by breaking free of this comparison loop and comparison trap that we get into, okay? So let's get into it. The first one that I want to look at, I want to start with something that trips a lot of us up, probably more than we even realize. We're comparing that behind the scenes lives we talked about. Like, I'm looking at someone else's highlight reel and I'm calling it like fair, but guess what? Spoiler alert here, like it's not fair to you. This is what is called you have to do a reality check reframe. It's about waking up to the fact that what we're seeing online or even in public isn't the full picture. It's a polished version people want us to see. And we forget that. We always forget that. And no wonder, we end up in this feeling like we're falling short because of that. Most of the time, we're not comparing apples to apples in any way. We're comparing our messy Mondays, our toddler's tantrums, my toddler's regressed backwards in potty training, our behind, that we're behind on deadline moments, someone else's vacation photos, their business wins, their promotions. We're comparing it without any of the struggle that came with them for those people. Now, our brains don't always make that distinction, though. When I was working on the book, I've read a lot of facts, went through a lot of different studies and reports and looked for the science-backed data that I could find to support what I was saying. And when you look at the data, it actually shows that even when we know something's being filtered or edited, our minds still treat it as a reality. And that's why your heart sinks a little when you see someone else winning. Your nervous system is literally reacting like you're under threat. And it's a wild feeling, but it's absolutely real. So how do you put this into practice? How do you break that cycle? Well, start by catching yourself when the comparison creeps in. Let's catch ourselves in the moment. So you want to practice that. How do I put into play the behind the scenes thinking that, okay, I see that perfect family photo. It's well, they probably have 47 outtakes and maybe a few bribes that had to be made to children to get to that. That shiny launch that somebody did in their business and got that new thing. Well, how many versions failed before they did that? Or maybe someone that got that big promotion that came after a bunch of unforeseen, you didn't see the late nights or maybe the self-doubt that they had. I think it's amazing when people can open up and talk about those things and talk about the growth that comes from it. I believe that the more we can open up and talk about our own self-doubt, our own struggles, our own, things like that we've had, it does start to change, because then we start to see someone could look polished and clean. Jake, he wrote a book and he's running a 7-figure agency that helps entrepreneurs with tech. And, he launched this book and this other business helping individuals become more and do more. It's and there's been a lot of anxiety and stress and late nights and cursing the sky and tears and blood and sweat and tear, all of it. It doesn't come easily. So you need to find the time where you can say, well, what actually happened there? We need to remind ourselves that, of these types of things, so it can pulse back to reality. What actually happened to get those people to where they are? I absolutely love the book. I just read, oh my gosh, I can't think of it. Law of Success or whatever, where he goes through and talks about the 7 times in his life he completely failed. That he completely failed at what he was doing. Now I'm gonna have to pause the video and figure out, make sure I said that it was the right video. Hold on. I was right. Law of Success by Napoleon Hill. So absolutely love it. This is a guy who's talking about the laws of success and how to be successful, and uses real examples of these amazing successes he's had. And at the same time talks about these 7 massive setbacks he had in his life that you would have never known about. So it's absolutely amazing. There is so many things that we have to remind ourselves of to put our brains back into the right place and give ourselves breathing room for where we're at. Now, after you check yourself in the moment, get intentional about what led into that world. I'm a big fan of curating your feed. How do you how do you curate your social media feed like you would maybe your pantry? You don't stock it with stuff that's going to make you feel sick. Now, if you're trying to eat healthy, if you're trying to live a certain style, it's like, well, I'm not going to put things there that throw that off. So follow people who tell the truth, who show the messy middle, who show not just the wins, people who admit when it's hard, and that, that's how you rewire what's normal looks like to you. Stop thinking everyone else lives on this mountain with ease while you're stuck down in the mud. That's not the case. And then the last thing is try, next time that comparison starts to hit you, is fill in the gaps. Literally imagine, or even write it out, the stuff that probably didn't make the post. The hard conversations, the rejections, the 3 a.m. wake-ups. Not to tear others down in any way, but to remind yourself that you're not behind. You're just seeing someone else's finishing line. You're in the middle of the marathon. It's okay. That happens. This matters so much, because if you don't reframe what you're looking at, you're going to keep measuring yourself against others, and you're against something that's not even real. And when the measuring stick is actually fake, no amount of striving will ever make you feel like you're enough. But when you start seeing things clearly, the pressure lifts. You stop trying to perform a certain way. You start growing, and from there you're free to move forward, fully grounded in truth, which then leads us to where we can then get into these other principles and steps. So the second one, let me just start by asking a question. If we stop comparing ourselves to everyone else, how do we know if we're actually making progress? So that's where that idea of the personal standard system starts to play in. Instead of using someone else's life as your measuring stick, this is about defining what success looks like for you based off your values, your reality, and your version of what matters. You have a default setting you are in, and a default future, and then you have a desired future. Don't make your desired future someone else's fakeness. Make it be real to who you are. Be honest with yourself. If you're not clear to your own standards, it's way too easy to default to whatever the world is, whatever else the world is shouting to you. Whatever they're putting out there that's the loudest. It's money, it's status, it's being liked, it's having appearances, promotions. It's some picture perfect version of being a parent, which does not exist. The picture perfect business, which does not exist, or the picture perfect life, which does not exist. I guarantee it. And the wild thing is that those external markers might have nothing to do with actually fulfills you. What actually leaves you feeling like you're fulfilled and having joy. That's such a core concept of the GIVER method and the GIVER method book that is in there. That's why so many people hit those traditional milestones and they still feel empty. Because they're chasing someone else's idea of success. And the truth is that none of those comparisons account for your starting point, your obstacles, your values, your life. It's like expecting every runner to finish a marathon at the same time without accounting for, who's running uphill, who's carrying extra weight, who's already on mile 12, who's trained for a longer period of time. Your personal standards let you measure your progress based off your past. So how you start to build your system is you start by asking yourself deep questions. Most of us never actually slow down long enough to ask ourselves, what actually matters to me? What am I proud of when no one's watching? What kind of life do I want to look back and say, yeah, I showed up for that? And the answers to those, it might surprise you. Now, don't judge yourself. Just answer them straight and honest. Maybe it's being more fully present with your kids, and being, a more productive, the most productive parent that you can be in their lives. Maybe it's building the business that feels aligned and honest, not just profitable. I'm focused on all currencies, the 3 currencies of life: time, energy, and money, and that I'm utilizing those currencies in the ways I see fit. Or maybe it's just showing up to work with that integrity, even if you're not getting promoted every 6 months. Once you're clear on that and create a scoreboard, scoreboards don't lie. You can ditch traditional metrics at that point. Track the things that actually reflect the life that you're trying to build. It could be anything from how you handled a tough moment with patience. It could be, that you wrote something that felt real to you. You shared more emotion. You took one step to, when, something even felt hard. Don't overthink it. Just make it something that helps you take notice, about the growth that you care about. And, it could be you journal that. It could be a spreadsheet, or even a sticky note on your mirror that you use to do that. Now, what matters, is that you then reflect on the progress you make on your own terms. That's why it matters so much. Is without a scoreboard, you're always chasing someone else's finishing line, even if it, crosses, even if it's designed to make you stumble. You might just feel like something's missing. But when you define what progress looks like for you, you start feeling something different. That comparison can never give you any sort of a peace. Not just, we're looking for how do we get not just peace, but momentum. Like, because when you, like, your growth actually feels right, you're way more likely to keep going. And so this is like, I'm giving you the permission slip right now to drop any borrowed goals that people may have for you and let go of the pressure trying to prove anything to anyone else. Like, the only person you need to measure against is the version of you from yesterday. And when you live that way, you stop chasing and you start building. Now, the third one, like, there's this curiosity shift that you have to do. Like, let's talk about, like, it's one of those powerful mindset shifts that you can make when you catch yourself comparing your life to someone else's. It's, stop asking, like, why not me? And start asking, like, what can I learn from that? Like, what can I learn from this, from their experience or whatever that could be, right? Like, that one question, like, what can I learn from this? It flips the whole experience from feeling like you're falling behind to, hey, I'm actually moving forward. I can learn from that thing. Because let's be real, when we see others doing something amazing, our first thought isn't always curiosity, probably more like a judgment. And often that's actually judgment towards yourself. We start wondering why we're not there yet, what we're doing wrong. Hey, are we ever going to have it all together? That kind of thinking wears down fast. It kills momentum. It fuels insecurity and doubt. Makes you feel smaller every time you look around. But the thing is, comparison, it isn't the problem. It's actually how we use it. If you look at someone's success through the lens of curiosity, like, wow, gosh, what helped them get there? Is there a path in their process that I could apply my own path to? Well, then suddenly you don't feel like you're behind. You feel like you're on a path. You're learning, you're growing. You see new possibilities instead of judging your current place. Like, so let's talk about that. Like, first, start just noticing the comparison thoughts we talked about. Like, when are they creeping in? The ones that, oh my gosh, like, they're way better at this than I am. I'm not there. I'm not going to catch them. Like, okay, pause for a second. Like, that inner spiral is going to happen. You just need to pause and then ask yourself, like, well, I wonder what habits helped them get there, or what part of their journey could help me on my journey. Like, it's a small mental shift, but it can completely change how you feel in that moment. It takes you out of, like, the shame mentality and into a progress mentality. Maybe you see, a parent whose family seems dialed in and you think, like, wow, I must be failing. Like, gosh, pause. Just ask yourself, like, I wonder maybe what systems, what routines are they using that maybe I haven't tried? Or I'm watching another business owner scale, and grow way faster than you expected. And, like, you shift that, like, well, gosh, is there a principle here that I could test out in my own way? I have to struggle with this one all the time because I'm running a 7-figure agency day to day and working with clients and helping them build their businesses. And yet, as I launch my own business, my own brand around the GIVER method, I'm trying to catch up. I'm trying to be like, how do I get there faster? And I have to constantly pause and go, like, hold on, where am I at in my journey, and what can I learn from what I've seen from others as a part of that? Right? So you shift away from that. Even at work, like, if someone gets the role or the recognition you wanted, like, then try to just think to yourself, like, well, what did they consistently do that maybe I could learn from? And then next, instead of just observing from afar, start having, like, the learning conversations that go with that, right? Don't overthink it. People are usually more than happy to share what worked for them. Like, ask about their routines, ask about their struggles they faced, ask about the lessons that they didn't see coming that you could probably avoid. Like, they often, like, learn, you're going to learn that their path wasn't as smooth as maybe it looked from the outside. And the best part is that those conversations build connection instead of resentment. You even start creating a curiosity log where you can jot down ideas, habits, insights that resonate with you when you observe someone doing something really well. And then, keep it simple. You can put a note on your phone. It could be a voice memo, like when you're on a walk, like, just somewhere to store these little life lessons that you have that you could look back on. And then review it and ask yourself, like, which of these ideas could actually fit into my real life right now? There's a great concept of there are great ideas out there that are wrong right now. And so we're basically putting them on the bookshelf that we can go pull from later, right? Now, it matters because when you flip comparison into curiosity, you're taking the power back and you stop letting other people's success shrink you. Instead, and start to shape you. You start by using it to learn and grow from it, not tearing yourself down. Take away the silent threats and turn them into these unexpected teachers that are there. Now, our next one, like, there is like looking at unique contributions. Let's talk about one of the sneakiest lies that comparison often tells us, and that's that we don't have anything special to offer. I could tear this thing apart in so many which ways. This is where the GIVER method or the GIVER roadmap could be so impactful for you. You know, so if any part of this principle starts to resonate, like, gosh, go down in the description and get those for yourself. Like, everyone, like every person has talent, has clarity, and has confidence within them. And we're just trying to figure out where it fits in. Now, they're just these skills, these gifts, these that could be developed into superpowers, as I like to call them. They're just lying dormant inside you. We just have to figure out where they are. The truth is that you have something so valuable to give, and you just might not see it because you've been busy measuring yourself against others. You know, you're looking at their highlight reel and getting lost in that insight. Like, this is about uncovering and naming, this is my unique contribution that I can do, right? Like those things that you bring to the table that no one else does quite like you. And here's the real kicker. The very things that made you feel different or behind are often where those superpowers are hiding. When you're not clear on what we bring to the table, like, it is easy to slip into like this insecure headspace. Well, I guess I'm not as creative as her. And I don't have the same success story as he does. Like, well, gosh, but when you get clear, I've got these gifts that already are a part of my story. And not only are they a part of my story, but they're so unique in how I can deliver them because of my unique experiences and timeline and journey that I've been on. Your thinking, your past, your struggles, like, they're going to show up for people. You start to realize that you were never meant to compete with someone else's path. You're walking your own, and you make the difference known in so many different ways. Like, you are the only person who can make the difference that you can. So how do we do this? Well, gosh, there's so many videos you could watch on this channel to unpack that. You could get the book, you could get the GIVER roadmap. Start though with something like a pattern check. Look at the different areas of your life, you know, whether it's parenting or work, relationships, even struggles that you've been through, and ask yourself, like, what keeps showing up? What are the things people are thankful for? What are the things that I can do without even thinking twice? They just seem easy to me. Like, what lights me up and creates energy? Like, if you're a parent, maybe it's you've got a quiet gift of calming chaos in your house. You know, if you're building a business, maybe you have a superpower of seeing a bigger picture when others are stuck in the weeds. You know, if you're working in a team, maybe like you're the one that notices what's not being said, and that starts to change the game. And then you can start to take a look at your backstory. Look for, like, what are your origin strengths? You know, what was, you know, Peter Parker got bit by the spider. You didn't have to get bit by a spider. Like, you had challenges that shaped you. Like, what tough seasons gave you new perspective, new strengths that you didn't have before? Sometimes the exact thing that disqualifies you is actually something that qualifies you to help others in such a meaningful way. I can tell you about so many failures I have in my life that have powered me through to be able to empower other people with that. Maybe growing up in a home where you had negative, you know, big emotions started to give you the gift of empathy. Maybe losing a job forced you into creativity, and now you can help others do the same. You know, we're not looking for perfect resumes here. We're looking for the threads that connect your past to what your potential could be. You know, then comes the fun part, testing your contribution in the real world. You can try using these contribution experiments where you look for the low pressure ways to show up with these gifts that you have and see what happens. And maybe you're going to share an idea at work that's been rolling around in your head, even if it's a little outside the box. Maybe you're going to try helping a fellow parent in a way that you wish someone had helped you. Maybe you're going to offer a different kind of service or message in your business that reflects you, not just what everyone else is doing. You know, the goal here isn't I'm not looking to go viral. I'm not, you know, trying to make a big splash. I just, you know, it's to feel that sense of like, this is what I'm meant to be doing. You know, because then you're clear on your unique contribution. Other people's success doesn't feel threatening to you, and you stop thinking, I'm never going to be like them, and you really start thinking like, well, they've got their lane, I've got mine, and that's perfectly fine where we are. And that's where fulfillment starts to show up and be more present in your life. Now, this next principle, like, it addresses the crucial environment factor within comparison. Like, what we regularly expose ourselves to, like, it shapes our perceptions of what normal is. It influences like self-evaluation. You know, the intentional, like having this intentional exposure management that you could do, like, it focuses on consciously curating information, you know, your information environment to support healthy, like, a self-assessment rather than trying to let random algorithms or social dynamics determine like your comparison points. We look at today's digital landscape, like our exposure to others' lives, like their achievements, is largely determined by, you know, engagement optimization algorithms that are in social media rather than what's healthy for our psychological well-being. Like the algorithms that are out there, they tend to promote extreme examples or extraordinary success, unusual achievements, or perfectly curated images because they generate stronger emotional responses and engagement, and that's what matters to them. And it creates that distorted view of what is normal, making ordinary lives and realistic progress seem inadequate by comparison. Like the different research and data out there shows that even bigger, like even a brief exposure to this sort of idealized, content on social media can trigger negative self-comparison and reduce your self-esteem. And, maybe particularly more important is like understanding that these effects happen largely outside of our conscious awareness. Like the different studies, reports, and things that are out there, like they demonstrate that people who know social media presents selective reality, like they still experience negative comparison effects from that exposure. So like it's because comparison often it operates through automatic emotional pathways rather than rational evaluation. Like just as environmental toxins affect your health, like regardless of whether you're aware of them or not, unhealthy comparison triggers impact in your self-perception. And when you intellectually recognize their distortion, like you can implement this sort of a intentional exposure management. Like you start by just conducting what are the comparison triggers? Like do an audit of that. Like what is the specific content or platforms or relationships that are leaving me feeling inadequate or doubting my path? And then pay attention to your emotional state before and after that exposure. Like what leaves you feeling energized? What inspired versus maybe deflated or made you feel insufficient? And that awareness is going to be the first step, because now we can be make intentional choices about our information diet that we're going to go on. For a parent, like it could reveal certain parenting groups or social accounts consistently trigger inadequate feelings. Like as an entrepreneur, it could be like a highlight specific industry figures or competitors whose updates leave you questioning your own approach. Like if you're working for a company, it might be identifying workspace dynamics or professional accounts that routinely generate feelings of being behind or insufficient. And then practice that like conscious curation by deliberately reshaping your information, like the information environment around you based on what supports your well-being and growth. It could be avoiding it's not about avoiding all of the challenges or creating an echo chamber. It's about ensuring that the exposure reflects the realistic diversity rather than algorithm boosted extremes. Unfollow accounts that constantly trigger unhealthy comparison. Diversify the information sources that you have in front of you. Join communities that value authenticity over, performance image that there may be, right? And then you can implement these exposure boundaries for yourself where you have create the protected space where comparison triggers can't be, especially during maybe vulnerable times. It might be having tech-free periods or limiting social media times rather than, going and looking at it throughout the whole day. Maybe it's, in the morning or evening routines, like free from any sort of external input. Like just design the boundaries to be strongest when you're naturally vulnerable to comparison, such as when you're tired or facing challenges or already feeling insecure in different ways. And then that intentional exposure management, it's so important and essential with your self-perception, because you don't want that to become a vacuum that's continuously shaped by the exposure of the things that you unconsciously don't notice are there, but they're coming in at all sides. Consciously curating what you regularly expose yourself to creates the conditions for healthier self-evaluation. And of course, the final principle addresses perhaps one of the most fundamental drivers of harmful comparison, like operating from someone else's definition of success rather than your own. So what you want to do is have the authentic success definition. Like we talked about this earlier, where you start to identify your values and where you're at. What you want to focus on is curating and creating a personal vision of a well-lived life with your unique values, aspirations, and circumstances rather than adopting anybody else's. Many of us never question what are the actual definitions of success that we've absorbed from our environment versus assumptions of what should be achieved in our timeline, what timelines are normal for people, what outcomes indicate a successful life. We have these unexamined definitions that create these powerful and invisible frameworks that we evaluate ourselves against others. There's all sorts of data and research out there that shows that people experience significantly more comparison distress when their measures of success come primarily from an external source rather than an authentic personal value. Without that clear internal compass, we're far more vulnerable to measuring ourselves against others, because we're looking at metrics that are the most visible in our environment, regardless if those metrics don't actually align with who we are. So what's really important about this is creating these authentic success definitions is that they're inherently personal and contextual. Unlike comparison success, like where you're being better than others, authentic success is about aligning your unique values, purpose, and circumstances with where you're at today and where you're headed. Like this means authentic success looks totally different to people. Like it evolves. What I view as success versus what my younger brother may look at success are totally different. And we grew up in the same household, but we're just at different stages of life. You know, this sort of a definition works perfectly for someone who might be completely misaligned with what, you know, creates genuine fulfillment for you based off your values, your gifts, your life situation. So you want to implement this. You want to start by conducting maybe a success assumption audit of yourself. Like identify those areas, those beliefs that you have about success that might be operating from an unconscious place. Like ask yourself, like, what outcomes do I currently view as success? Where did that definition of success come from? Which feel authentically aligned with my deeper values? Which just seem like external expectations? And that can show up in all sorts of ways for you. And then you develop a, like, okay, well, what is fulfillment to me? And how can I put that into some sort of intelligent practice? And you identify what actually creates genuine satisfaction and meaning in your life, regardless of what the external metric or recognition may be. You pay super close attention to when you feel the most alive and engaged and fulfilled, like not just monetary excitement or external validation, but deeply satisfied, you know, at a soul level. And these experiences are going to provide those clues to what are the authentic success drivers for you. And then start to create your own personal success blueprint, like that articulates your authentic definition of your values, your natural gifts, your unique life context. It could be a written document, it could be some sort of visual representation, even like a personal mission statement that just clarifies what success genuinely means to you, and then review and refine that blueprint regularly. Like use it as the compass for decisions and a framework for self-assessment that doesn't depend on the comparison of others in any way. This sort of success, authentic success definition, like without it, you're just going to constantly find yourself measuring yourself against metrics that don't actually lead to a fulfillment that you're going to want to have. You know, when you do this, like you ensures that your efforts are directed towards the thing that will create meaning and satisfaction given your unique values and life context and where you are at within your journey. All right, so let's bring this all together. Like we've covered a lot in this video, you know, from peeling back the illusion of the highlight reels and building your own perspective, your own personal standards, you know, from getting, you know, curious instead of self-critical, you know, as a part of defining your success terms. Like, but the part that really sticks like with this is that it isn't just something you know, it's something you start to live. Yeah, because comparison, like it doesn't disappear overnight. It's going to creep in quietly. It's going to creep in as soon as you stop watching this video, on the scroll, in the meeting, like those not enough moments when you're just trying to hold it all together. That's exactly why you have to start working on these daily shifts, you know, a choice to see yourself differently, a practice to return to like your progress, where you are, your pace, your gift, your growth. So if any of this resonates with you, start small. You don't have to master all 6 of these things that we talked about. Just pick one. Maybe it's pausing the next time the comparison starts to creep in and you know, starting to look at that highlight reel not as the whole story. Maybe it's finally writing down what success looks like to you. Maybe it's choosing to see someone else's success as a fuel for your own instead of a reason to feel behind. Like whatever it is, just begin there. Start there. That small shift done with intention is going to start to break the cycle for you. Now, if it helped you maybe take some steps forward, like if you want to go even further, then that's where, like, go get the GIVER Method book down in the description. Go to Amazon and buy it. It's going to change your life. Like, it's going to have an absolute massive impact on you. I promise you that. Also, the GIVER roadmaps down there, or the ways that you can find us on all the social medias. Like, the things that we provide, they're packed with simple and doable ways that you could put everything we just talked about into practice, especially if you're a busy parent or an entrepreneur trying to get into that rhythm again, or someone who's been feeling stuck in that daily job and knows there's more to it. All right, so before you go, drop a comment. Let me know which of these things maybe hit home for you to do today. Like what's that one small shift you want to start to put into place? And then let's keep the conversation going. Let's share this with other people who may need it. Like, you're not behind, you're just building something that's not, that is going to be fully yours. And that, like, it's totally worth showing up for. And so until next time, I'll just say, keep growing, keep giving, and remember that you are so much closer than you think you are to where you need to be. So just start taking those little steps forward, because overnight it will transform how you show up in the world, and the world needs who you are right now. So have a great rest of your day. We'll catch you in our next video.